Hello, Las Cruces, and welcome back to another episode of Be Heard, where your voice will be heard. I'm your host, Dylan Swindle, here with Mayoral candidate Jorge Sanchez and our guest, environmental activist Dante Lopez. I'm glad to have you here, Dante.
Thank you very much, Dylan.
Absolutely.
And for everyone that's missed the last episodes, my name is Jorge Sanchez, and I'm running for mayor. Me llamo Jorge Sanchez y estoy corriendo para ser mayor de Las Cruces, Nuevo México.
Bueno. Now, today we're going to be going over a few different topics, most of them regarding the environment. But we're going to start off today with free college in New Mexico. Let's go ahead and get started on that.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool program that we're doing. We've kind of seen it before with the New Mexico lottery. It's kind of the same thing as that because they do cover the college, the tuition, but you have to keep your grades at a certain GPA, and you have to have a certain attendance rate, and you have to be a New Mexico resident. So isn't that kind of what was happening when we were in high school?
Well, like you said, it is just like the lottery scholarship because to keep the lottery, you had to have the 2.5 GPA. For this new proposal that they're doing, it's still the 2.5 GPA. The only difference is that it's funded from our oil revenues that we've gotten like a surplus of rather than through the lottery.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what we kind of need to do more here in the Southwest is kind of benefit more from our resources. And like this right here is already going to benefit a lot of the whole state. We need to kind of benefit more from our resources here in Las Cruces to kind of give ourselves a better future.
I think it's definitely good for the kids because I wish I would have had this like opportunity growing up. Just like I didn't really qualify for the lottery scholarship, so now the younger generations are going to have that access to free college. Like it's a game changer for them. Like they like people from poorer communities, like not really trying to say anything, but like yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. They're being more represented, which is a good thing.
Yes,
they're getting more
yes.
benefits out of this, and it's people like this that we're giving them a brighter future. A lot of people don't like this program, but we're actually giving the lower income a better future, and that's the good thing about it. And people just need to kind of realize that we're doing better for the more unrepresented half of Las Cruces right there.
Now, it's interesting you said that because in terms of this proposal, there is a lot of opposition to it. A lot of people are mad that, they are giving this opportunity to people now whenever they didn't have it back then. What would you say to those kind of people?
Well, it's a good thing. We need to start accepting change. We need to start progressing more as a country. And I'm not saying I'm progressive, but we do need to progress. It's better than regress, I guess.
Absolutely.
Well, I'd always rather move forward rather than move backwards. I mean, we're taking a few steps ahead rather than if we eliminated this free college proposal, we'd be taking those few steps back, like you said.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We need to see it in a different kind of perspective because I lived a good life and I'm happy with the life I've lived. But I would still want better for my children and better for their children, We still need to want better for the next generations instead of question, why didn't we get this when I was at that age?
Gotcha. Now, in terms of the current college situation, so, we're obviously, the bill hasn't passed yet. We don't have free college. So a lot of the opposition to the bill, a lot of them are saying, I had to work my way, claw and tooth to the top and be able to go to college. But I've heard a lot of, response to that saying that kind of mentality is kind of classist and discriminates against poor communities. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because some people do get the benefit of being able to work and pay for their tuition, but everyone has different situations. You never know. Maybe some people had to work and pay for their bills, pay for their mother, pay for their home, pay for, different types of bills. Situations do hit you out of nowhere, and they don't have the money to pay for their tuition. And those are the type of people that do need this help. I've worked in many places where a lot of people I've met have gone to college for their first year, and then a tragedy happens, like their father dies, and they have to drop out and start working to help their mother out. And they don't have the same privilege of going to college after that. So this would give them that privilege. This would give them that assistance, which it's a good thing.
Yeah, what you said about the classification, it is class objectification, just because we're discriminating against these people who don't have like the money to pay for this. I mean, this is an opportunity to help them get educated and find better jobs for themselves and do what they want to do.
Right.
And like we're one of our next topics is the recycling program. And when I said we need to start using our own resources towards our benefit, like we already got to benefit this free college from the oil industry and things like that. We can also benefit from the recycling programs, can't we, right?
No, recycling programs, definitely. Recyclable materials need to be like, how do I say, like more...
Easily recyclable, or
not even like easily recyclable, but more available.
Oh.
We need to use the recyclable materials and put them into more like everything.
Oh, I got
like
you.
we need to start recycling shoes out of materials like that. We can make carpets from plastic. We can reuse our water bottles and make more water bottles.
Right.
Just simple stuff like that. Because I believe it's only about 10% of what you recycle actually gets recycled. And the other percentage, it's about 12% gets incinerated. The rest of it gets filled into landfills. And it's not right. It's not good.
Now, before we move on to the recycling, which we will get to, I want to ask you one more question in regards to the education. Now, another argument against the bill is that giving everyone access to college for free devalues the college education. So by letting everyone go in and get their degree, it is taking the value from those degrees and bringing it to a lower level. What would you say about that?
I don't believe in that at all, actually. I feel like it kind of scares people because it gives more people the chance to be just as qualified as they are. And I feel like that thought kind of scares people when we need to start helping the bottom come up. But a lot of people that think that way, I feel like, want to keep them down. And the less degrees that go out, the less competition they have. When we need to move forward as a country and just higher education for everybody, give this education out to everybody. And if it's more competitive, then you got to be more qualified pretty much.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed about you as a candidate is that you're very pro-education. So I just kind of want to throw that out there. That's cool. So we're going to move on to our next topic. I think we've aired out the free college one. We are going to move on to landfills and waste management.
All right. So landfills. So have y'all heard about the China ban?
I have not.
Okay, so with China, about a year ago, they stopped accepting a bunch of the trash that we've shipped out. And a lot of our recyclable materials that we have here in just the U.S. as a whole, we ship them to China. They do all the sorting and everything like that. They do the recycling and transform them into goods. But recently, they closed their borders, and they're not accepting like 60% of the trash. So we're starting to have a real waste management problem here in the United States just because we don't know what to do with a lot of this extra garbage that we have stockpiled up.
Right.
And so in turn, we're just putting it into landfills. And landfills, they're not really the best, obviously, because it's just a bunch of trash thrown underneath a protective liner covered with dirt.
Right.
And whenever that happens, it cuts off the oxygen. And that oxygen is what degrades the materials that we have.
Right.
So without that lack of oxygen, what's really cutting off on it?
In terms of that, I think, so by cutting off the oxygen, I think there's a process going on to harness natural gas there, right?
It's called
methane, right?
Methane is one of the leading greenhouse gas emissions. It's worse than CO2, about 21 times worse, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in that process, that whenever that oxygen is cut, is called the anaerobic process. And that's really the microorganisms within the earth are breaking down those materials. But since there's that lack of oxygen, the microorganisms break them down about 3 times slower than normal biodegradation.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's one of the things I'm trying to do is I get people to research a lot of these topics so we can actually get something done and progress as a city to see how we can benefit not only ourselves as the people, but the environment around us. Because if we don't start taking action now, then this will probably come back to bite us in a few years. I mean, we have been procrastinating on the environment for way too long. And if you guys haven't seen, I was there at the climate change rally and I'd given a speech. And the thing I was getting at is we politicians, if you can consider me one yet, we try and promise a bunch of things for the environment, but once they get put in office, they kind of forget about a lot of it and they kind of just ignore everything they promised. And we, as the people, need to start holding those politicians accountable on every promise they make.
Yes.
We need to start making sure they fulfill every promise, and that'll better our future, and that'll make you feel like your vote does matter. Because a lot of people right now feel like they can vote for someone, but they still won't get it done. Because we need to hold them accountable.
Gotcha. Now, we talked about waste management kind of on a big scale. So we know the U.S. has a waste issue.
Yeah.
But let's bring it more down to a local level and how Las Cruces manages waste. Do you think that there's something that we could be doing better in terms of, managing our waste that we're not?
I believe that we need to transition from the landfills because even our recycling programs here in town, they stopped accepting like half of what they used to just because of the China ban. So really a lot of this trash is just going into the garbage, or it's being incinerated, and rarely incinerated out here because we don't have no chambers or nothing for that, no boilers, nothing going down here. So really what we can do to try and improve our waste management is try and be more self-conscious about what we are using and where we're putting the waste and how we're wasting products. We're in a very one-use type of a nation where you have one-use plastic bottles and people don't really even recycle those. A lot of our plastic bottles end up in the ocean. So it's really ingrained at the root of society, which we need to fix on a personal level.
Yeah, not only that, our recycling program, well, we really don't even have one because we pretty much just send it all off to companies in El Paso and we pretty much outsource it when, like I said before, we can use it for our benefit. I mean, there are cities that have programs to the point where they build buildings off things they've recycled.
Yeah.
They do so many different things, and it's just insane to me how we just kind of ship it off and we still pay them
to take it.
Yeah.
So it seems like really nothing's being done to actually resolve the issue with the waste. We're just kind of putting it on the back burner and putting it out of sight.
Yeah,
Out of sight, out of mind. And in terms of the ocean, you're right, a lot of the waste does end up there. And given we're a landlocked state, we don't see the ocean very much.
No.
So I think a lot of the urgency is kind of missing from our community. And not to say that we don't care about it. It's just, we don't see it on a day-to-day basis in the way that coastal cities would.
Yeah. And that's what I've said before so many times is we pretty much procrastinate on a lot of these problems. And with the ocean, we really did not notice or begin working on it until it was too late. Until we just had an island full, literally a floating island, that's just in the middle of the ocean of plastic and trash. We need to stop waiting till it's too late and just start taking action now.
Well, the socioeconomic impacts that trash and landfills and everything trash related has all right. So the socioeconomic impacts that has happened can really stem for really bad for us. It'll pose a lot of public health issues because landfills, they secrete, it's called leachate or something like that. I don't really know how to say it, but it's a type of contamination and water just builds up and it tears through the cracks and the liners that they put at the bottom of these landfills. And if it contaminates groundwater or aquifers, if it gets into our aquifers, that's going to take at least a few $1,000s just to fix and actually clean. And that's our drinking water.
Right.
You don't want that coming in through your tap.
Absolutely not.
I don't even drink tap water just because of the fact that stuff like that is pretty gross.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with a lot of these problems that we're facing already. I mean, even landfills right now, they create with a lot of loss of habitat. They drop the property value. If your house is close to a landfill, you don't want to be smelling that garbage. Absolutely. So your property value is going to drop already. So you're a realtor, so you should know property value goes down when there's less desirable.
Yes, a lot of it is due to the environment.
I'm sorry, George, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that's a good stop for the moment before we go on our commercial break. Make sure you tune back in after these commercial breaks for another half of, talking about good old topics like these. So make sure you come on back.
So great, you can do all these different ears, like that.
Okay.
Nice.
Guys, not all, but Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
Back to Be Heard, where your voice will be heard. I am your host, Dylan Swindle, here with mayoral candidate Jorge A. Sanchez and our guest, environmental activist Dante Lopez. We just left off talking about our environment, waste management, recycling, mostly dealing with the effects of these topics. But what can we do?
So what I plan on doing as mayor of Las Cruces is I plan on opening up our own recycling program and start actually using the benefits of recycling here for our own city. And most likely benefiting off those programs, profiting.
Yeah.
I mean,
so a lot of the products that can be made, like there's different things that you can do. Like plastic can actually be remade into carpet, or be remade into tablecloths, as well as you can transform it back down to its most basic element, like via chemical like washing and stuff like that. And it'll be like these little plastic beads that you can actually reuse and create into more like plastic bottles. And at least the plastic bottle is getting its second life. Or some people even like create whole shoes out of just recyclable materials. Like that can be a profit for us. Plus at that point, since we're here, if we base that here in Las Cruces, we can actually buy a lot of the waste and a lot of the recyclables from other places here within the state. So
exactly, and off those profits, what we can also do is help lower the citizens' tax on pretty much their waste management, because we do give them a little tax every month on picking up their trash, picking up their recycled goods, and things like that. So I would, as a mayor, yes, at first it'd be a little investment, but it would benefit our environment and it would benefit our city long term. And I don't mind doing an investment if it's going to benefit our future.
I was just kind of talked a little bit about the recycling there, but that's going to only take care of the recycling. We still have the problem of landfills and waste. So I do have a little idea, but I mean, it kind of copies what Sweden's doing. Do y'all know what Sweden's doing?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, really what they do, they incinerate about 99% of their trash. And well, a lot of it is recycled. About 49% of it is recycled. 50% of it is burned. And what is burned is all mainly organic material, such as your table scraps and stuff like that. Only 1% of Swedish trash ends up in landfills. All right, so they really regulate the emissions that come through. They filter the air that comes out from their incinerator just to make it environmentally like sound, so that way they're not creating like air pollution. So what I was thinking, there's a fourth state of matter, and that's plasma, okay? So it's used a lot in welding technology, but it can also be used in the aid of getting rid of trash. So via plasma gasification, okay? So what that does, there's a whole long chamber, and this plasma ray basically burns all the organic materials, and it creates two byproducts. That byproduct is going to be synergas, like synergy gas type of, I believe that's what it's short for, and it's also going to create a lot of slag. And that slag that piles up in the bottom is going to be a lot of the raw materials, such as like iron, zinc, and basically any other metal you can get, aluminum, tin. It's going to pile up at the bottom, and we can use that slag in road work, so we can fix our infrastructure with that. And I have some, just a little bit of like pointers here. So it says 350 pounds of slag per ton of waste is processed. So because of that, we can profit at least 52 cents per ton. I mean, we're talking in tons, so it's not like no little amount. We have lots of trash here that we could be profiting off of. And so synergy gas, you can use it to heat homes. You can power cars, buses, taxis. That's what they do in Sweden with their byproduct gas. And If you use it in electricity, it's about $70 per megawatt an hour. All right. And so per ton, I believe the per ton profit that you could get is $37 per ton off of the synergy gas.
Wow, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, and that's some of the things we can do is we could start benefiting ourselves with all this, and we need, as a society, we need to start looking at what other communities and other countries, cities are doing, and we need to start. I don't want to say copying them, but I want to start partnering up with them and seeing what we can do to also help and also benefit ourselves. And if we start taking charge with that, and even taking charge with our education, you never know. We can even probably benefit way more than what we know at the moment.
If we invest in our education, then we can find more better solutions to what the problems that we have now. I mean, what we have right here and what Sweden's doing is it's a short term, I want to say, fix, but it's not going to be around forever until we find something that's better, obviously.
And that's the thing. My whole thing on this campaign is I want a better future for Las Cruces. And the way with the environment is going, we're projected to have about 12 years to fix the problem when we kind of need to start now. And I know we passed a bill that by 2045, I think it was 2043, 2045, that Las Cruces will be ran on 100% on renewable energy. And my part that I would take in that is I promise to 100% to make sure that we are on track to be 100% renewable.
So if we were going to do that renewable energy, so then what would you do? Would you bring in a lot more solar power, wind power? What would you do?
I would bring a lot more solar power, because I know we can do that here. On the wind power, I'd have to check what we need to do to get that done here. But for sure, solar power, and pretty much I do anything in my power to help our environment. Pretty much what I can do. And I'm always 100% open to more ideas. And if you guys know any ideas, just hit up my messages on Facebook or on Twitter. Even email me. I'm always 100% available and always responding to all ideas.
Word. So it sounds to me like you brought that idea from Sweden. So I think in terms of what we want to do as a community, I think we shouldn't be shy from copying what works. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that Sweden's method is the best.
They have
obviously, we need.
They don't have it all completely
right,
down.
We got to figure it out. But we shouldn't be shy in doing what we know is working. And from what you both are kind of talking about, it sounds to me like you are looking for a Las Cruces that is self-sustainable and is kind of self-sufficient in what it does, right?
Yeah, we want to bring more money into our economy. We don't want to outsource it.
Right.
So everything I want to do, I'm trying to do it to insource Las Cruces, to create jobs and to create pretty much just a better future for Las Cruces.
So in terms of bringing all that into Cruces, obviously that's going to create jobs, but we need space. So that obviously it probably calls for the expansion of Las Cruces, right?
Oh, it will.
And we got plenty of room. I mean, we're in a desert.
We are, yeah.
Las Cruces is pretty rural. And we do have the fact that I think we were talking about it earlier off air, but how starting to get a little populated here in Cruces. Traffic's starting to back up a little bit. See a lot more people everywhere. See a lot of faces that I don't know. So at some point we're gonna have to expand.
Right.
It's inevitable.
It is.
Yeah, and pretty much my plan is just to make Las Cruces as beautiful as possible.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to put 100% of my power towards making sure that I can help the environment as much as I can.
But I do want to point out that you can only do so much as a person. It's really going to take a lot from the residents to really do and make a change in the difference that we want to see in the world. So we got to start small within ourselves and preach to others and try to get people to understand that this is a problem and we only get one Earth. There's no planet B. So we got to keep this one beautiful.
And I think that's kind of what your platform stands on, is that especially with your slogan of "Be Heard," I think you at least from what I've gathered, and my experience with you is you want to have your feet on the ground.
Yes.
In the community, and you want to be talking with the people, and you want the people to be with you, and you want to be with the people. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in terms of getting local support of renewable energies, recycling, that kind of stuff, I think that you're equipped with the tools needed to bring that together, and that's really what you're going for. But we're running out of time. Do you have any final things to say to the people?
Yes. What I want to say to people is I promise you, as mayor of Las Cruces, that I will bring a better future for every citizen here in Las Cruces. I will bring a better future for our kids, for our elders, and for everyone, for small businesses. I plan on just making Las Cruces the most amazing city in the United States.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you, Las Cruces, for tuning in for another episode of Be Heard, where your voice will be heard, with mayoral candidate Jorge Sanchez and our guest, Dante Lopez. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
It's a true pleasure. And make sure you tune in next week for another episode. Thank you very much.
I am Jorge Sanchez, mayoral candidate, and I approve this message. Esteban Olivas, Treasurer.